listening to the Stupidity In Your Ear podcast. Here comes the stupid.
Welcome back to the podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. Hope you guys are having a good week.
Yeah. How you been, Sam?
Doing pretty well. It's actually, I'm going to apologize in advance. It is, you guys might be hearing a lot of fireworks outside because today in the UK is Guy Fawkes' Day, November 5th. It's a really wholesome holiday. They light off fireworks, make puppets of this guy named Guy Fawkes, then they burn it over fires. It's really good family fun. You know, this guy literally tried to murder the king, and they caught him, and so that's what this holiday celebrates.
Is it honoring the guy that tried to kill him, or is it honoring the fact that they caught him?
It's honoring the fact that they caught him guarding a bomb under Parliament, and then they burn him every year again and relive his punishment year after year. So it's really good.
Horrible.
After this, yeah.
Not that Columbus Day is 1,000 times better or anything, but
oh man,
history. What can you do?
Gotta love it. Well, this week we decided, we're getting too funny. We're getting too good at this whole comedy thing.
I think that's the biggest feedback was everyone's like, "Stop! You're too funny."
You're making me wet myself. It's so funny. Stop. But so we took your advice. We're gonna take a break from the comedy scene, and not really. I mean, we just thought it'd be cool to talk about some real stuff this week. Some hot button issues.
Oh yes, real talk.
Just so you guys get to know us a little better, feel like you understand us. So then maybe our jokes will be funnier because we're not that funny.
Yep.
So, I mean, let's just jump right into the political realm because, this is everybody's favorite thing to talk about. It really brings people together. It really, just bonds people, So, Calvin, give me your thoughts on Trump.
He is the president, and that's for certain.
That is for certain.
Yeah. My thoughts on Trump are the reason that he is in office is because of generation after generation of polarizing politics. And that's the reason Hillary was also the choice, was everyone's like, well, I've got to go extreme either way. And then, of course, Republicans won and he is president. But, I don't agree with a lot of the things he does or the way he runs the office, but I also think that people are largely disrespectful to a president. People did not agree with what Obama did a lot. Again, with polarization, but even calling him Donald to me is still weird. I never called him Barack,
Yeah.
That's weird to me.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, I think he's done a lot of horrible things. Well, okay, I'll say I think he's been accused of a lot of horrible things with sexual assault and Stormy Daniels, the whole thing. But then she went on Jimmy Kimmel, and Jimmy Kimmel asked her to describe his genitalia, and I'm like, yeah, that's really not appropriate. No matter who it is,
No.
What for any no matter if you're just any person or a celebrity of any kind, that's just not appropriate. And for that to be the president of the United States, that seems, at least to me, incredibly just disrespectful, but also weird. Why?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just my little rant on polarizing politics. Is this isn't even politics anymore. That's actually really weird. But hey, what can I do?
Dude, I don't think I could have said that better myself.
Thank you.
It's you're picking between two opposite ends of a magnet here, and each end of the magnet is saying that the other side is essentially the most evil person in the world.
Yeah.
and neither candidate is a great person. And so you're choosing between the lesser of two evils.
Yeah.
And how did the political system get to where that is what you're choosing here? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Standing up for the everyday man has kind of died out, and it's just become politics.
See, the thing is that politicians claim that they are, and that's
I know
the hypocritical nature of it.
Not true, yeah.
But again, the office of the president garners a certain amount of respect. That is, I've never, in my long lifetime, seen this much disrespect given to a president. But
it's crazy.
And the thing is, like, with the divisive nature of it, with the polarizing opposites, like, that only serves to make me want to disassociate entirely with politics, which it's not wise. And I know that's probably naive of me to think that, but that's honestly how I feel. Like, why get involved in something that's only going to make people mad, that's only going to make people yell at me, or make me feel bad about other people? Like, it's just the nature of it is depressing.
Yeah. I mean, nowadays it's very, very difficult to have a conversation that doesn't end in yelling or hurt feelings one way or another. So, and that is just our culture nowadays too. Farther than politics, but
it's just so emotion driven and personal. Like, it's not supposed to be that. It's supposed to be logical and reason based. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even get in an argument with Hillard over Star Wars without Hillard crying every time
he
starts sobbing. And it's like, Hillard, seriously, Revenge of the Sith, it's good, but whatever. I won't talk about Star Wars again. But anyway, the key phrase there is Hillard cries every time we have a conversation. So.
It's actually really bad. Like, it's like the most emotional bullying I've ever seen happen. Like, we have to Calvin, stop. You're going to hurt him long term. Like, you're destroying him so much in this argument. Like, it's not fair. So
yeah, it's not my fault though. So
yeah, it's definitely your fault.
But yeah, that's my thoughts on Trump.
Yeah.
Even there, right there, I just said Trump. Like, I feel like I didn't even really say that's my thoughts on Obama.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird.
He's not a person in everyone's eyes. He's like an idea of everything to be hated. I don't know.
Although I do think part of that is on Republicans as like saying that, or them being like, oh no, he's the best of all time. I'm like, well, at least open your mind to the fact that some people don't think that's the same thing. I think everyone just has really closed minds about everything. Yeah. Which is how politics are supposed to work anyway. So actually, it's probably smarter than to do that. So.
Well, and honestly, I see that as one of the major problems facing America. Like, disinterestedness in the political system and actual caring for what will happen to the country is the beginning of the end. Like, when all you care about is yourself and what your emotions say about a person because of things the other people's, I don't know. When you get caught up in all that and you're not caring about what's actually happening in the country, then that's the beginning of the end. And I mean, you see that with Rome, like reading about the fall of Rome, like one of the biggest problems was that the citizens didn't care about what was happening in the country anymore. All they cared about was their own entertainment and things like that. And I don't know. I see a lot of parallels.
For me, I've just been like not resigned, but I definitely like my faith is not placed in America surviving. So I'm like, you know what? I don't really have to panic or like break down when something terrible happens. Like, obviously you don't want that to happen, but like, that's not the end of my world, you know? Well, it might be
Definitely.
of this world, but not like my hope is in something higher than that, so I don't
Mhm.
really have to worry about those issues as much. Well, I mean, obviously worry, but like I'm not like that's not the shaking of my world because my foundation is just somewhere else. So
That's very, very true. Um, I think nationalism becomes a religion to a lot of people, and that's not kind of what I believe, and that's not really
yeah,
what I believe. And so, I support America. Always born here, or not here. I'm not in America right now. But I will always support America. But in the end, like my identity is not in the fact that I'm an American. So
yeah, definitely.
yeah. But anyway, what other problems do you really see, like the world or America facing, like right now?
Um, I don't know. My sociology class just talked about healthcare,
Mm.
and that's kind of just a messed up system all the way from top to bottom.
Mhm.
That's been on my radar for a while, just because I don't know. There's so much that goes into it, but
Yeah.
like it's such a complex, but like seems simple. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I learned that the number one factor of bankruptcy is like medical bills, which is crazy.
Dang.
Um, I guess in America is what I meant, but yeah,
Yeah.
that was probably clear. Um, and that's insane because like I personally believe like everyone should have a right to, go to a hospital and, be able to survive whatever's happening or get, treatment for issues that sometimes are out of their control. And even if they're in their control, I mean, it seems like basic mercy to do that. But
Yeah.
and I understand that, you know what, in a capitalist system, sometimes it's hard to uh, have everything be fair. And I don't necessarily think, oh, we should all have like the same stuff. I'm not really a communist. But that's kind of what I've noticed though is I've said, you know what, I think I believe in universal health care, and people are like, whoa, communism. And I'm like, no, I mean, yeah,
See, that's the point
that's
of
the
everyone wants to
extremism. Yeah,
jump to
it's
the extreme and
yeah,
put you in this. Oh, you believe maybe in that? Oh, you're
yeah,
all the way that way. Like,
yeah. And I won't claim to know enough. That's part of the other problem too. Is like I think Bo Burnham said it best when he said like I only have opinions on other people's opinions, and so like that's kind of where I'm at right now. But
hmm,
um, like with healthcare, like I do think that every person should have the basic right to have healthcare. And when you look at poor income families who have the option of, oh man, my arm's broken, I can either eat or I can, get my arm fixed. Like that shouldn't be a question you have to answer, especially
no.
for those who have kids and stuff. And like basically, you can't like you break your arm, so you can't go to work, and then you can't make money, and
Hmm,
then you become homeless.
hmm,
And that to me is like I don't know. There's not like an easy solution to that, but like and
yeah.
obviously no one likes paying uh taxes, but I don't know. To me it's like it's a worthy thing
Hmm,
to give to compared to like paying taxes for a stop sign that you just need to replace. That's
hmm,
perfectly fine. Not that that ever happens, but I was trying to think of any other thing that would be you'd pay taxes for.
yeah.
But stop signs, replace them. But for me, that's a worthy thing to pay taxes for.
Yeah.
You know, but
Yeah. And I don't know if that's be something that I would agree with. Then again, I don't feel informed enough at all to really take a stance on anything.
yeah,
Um, but then again, I think it is possible to disagree with while also seeing the other side, like seeing that the entrapment that people in poverty have because they can't
hmm,
afford health care. Like, oh my gosh, that is so terrible. And of course, I want to do everything to work against that.
yeah,
But I mean, also like talking to another American that came over here, and like kind of experiencing the national healthcare service over here. Like God, there's so many complaints against it, like about how it's slow and doesn't serve people well. And like somebody that I was talking to said they came over and they needed some medication. So it's actually quite strange to not like, you just go down to the place and I don't know, it's weird. It felt different. Anyway, this person, they went down and they like went into the appointment and they were like, the doctor came in and it felt like the doctor was just like, okay, what do you want? Like, and and it wasn't personal at all. And it was like they were just ticking people off in the line. And then they were like, okay, well, I was on this medication or whatever, and it doesn't work because of ... And so I basically need a new thing. And they're like, okay, we're going to put you on this. And this person had done their research before, and they're like, no, well, this thing has ... in it that is not going to work for me. And like, sorry, we're going to put you on this. Get out of here, basically, is how it went. And I was like,
yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah. I mean, I think with anything that you do, there's pros and cons. With a national healthcare system, you see like there's a less of an emphasis on personal stuff because more people can actually go and get like treatment and care and stuff like that. But I don't know. For me, it's like I understand. Like that's more of a culture thing as well. Because I mean, especially with our system, like the same people are in charge of distributing health related things like treatment or care or medicine, stuff like that. And so they would still be receiving the same type of care.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I see a lot of negatives as well, but I don't know. That's one of them things that is a bummer.
And it's really easy to theorize about this stuff and talk about it, but like when you sit down with somebody and hear their story, like it's so much harder to take a stance when you meet someone. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's my other thing too is there's just never going to be a perfect system.
Nope.
I mean, and I don't even think there will be a system that's ever even close to good. Like, I think we have like a mediocre system right now that's hinging on not great,
Yeah. Well, and I mean, that kind of ties into like general beliefs about humanity. Like, anything that humans do is not going to be perfect.
Yeah. True.
It's not,
Which I think like a lot of that is just people being selfish. Not that I'm not, because I'm 100% in that category, but just our nature is to seek out what's best for us and for whatever group is benefiting. Because I think a lot of America, like, I think sometimes a lot of people benefit from a few things, and then a lot of people suffer from those same things.
Yeah.
And so it's easy to be like, oh, well, I'm benefiting, and I see this other group of us that's benefiting. So this combined group is like, well, why would we quit that? So another group's like, yeah, this is actually like really making us like suffer, but then they don't want to give up whatever's helping them. And there's no way to get around that, I don't think, of like, because obviously you want to succeed in what's helping you succeed, but you don't want to give that up. So I don't know. Yeah. I'm kind of ranting at this point.
It doesn't feel like a rant.
I can rant if you want. You would not believe clean water sucks. Really do not like clean water.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before, and I'll talk about it again. Okay, clean water is a scourge in the earth.
It sucks.
Oh man, I mean, and speaking of this, kind of diverged from problems facing like the world in America, but specifically in America, like we see race as being a really divergent issue right now, or diversity.
Divergent was a great book and just a good series. I actually watched one of the movies and it was terrible, but yeah, did not like it. Way worse Hunger Games.
Couldn't have guessed that.
Hunger Games was funny, dude, and they just totally, oh man.
Yeah.
Which anyway, that's kind of the whole point. My whole point of that was the Hunger Games, again, very divisive in politics.
Yeah.
Some
people are like team PETA, and some are like Team Gale? Question mark.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm Team Gale.
Team Gale all the way.
I think I'm Team Gale because it was Liam Hemsworth.
I knew you
And
were
like
gonna say that.
I do not like Josh Hutcherson. And so I think I think in the book I was more of Team Gale, but then I saw the movie and I was like, dude, Team freaking Gale, dude. Like Team Gale all the way. He's so great.
Yeah.
That was what we were talking about, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm down on my rabbit trail. You can go back to what we were talking about. I forget what it was. Race relations.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Those are not good.
No.
I'll go out on a limb and say that.
Why? Why is it so bad right now?
I think it goes back to just lack of understanding. Like, I think a lot of it comes from ignorance. A lot of it comes from selfishness again. Like, ignorance, for example, like Megyn Kelly going on live TV and saying, "Oh, nothing's wrong with blackface," and then you're like, "Oh no, that's not a good call to say that on national TV." Which, I don't know. She apologized and stuff, but it's kind of like, how are you on the biggest morning show in America, and having said that, like, how did that not come across in your like transcript of, oh, that might be inappropriate to say?
Yeah.
And how does she not know? That's been in the news for people have been like doing blackface for a little bit and being like, oh, that's okay, I guess I shouldn't do that. But like that's been a thing for years and people just know.
Yeah.
Like I knew don't do blackface before like years ago, and I was not involved in any of that stuff. Like to me that's just like, why? But that's like, it's just a lack of education on the matter, and I think a lot of that stems from schools not teaching about it. Like you see institutionally there's racism in there, like you growing up and you knowing, oh, I know that George Washington Carver invented the peanut, but he's the only African American who's like invented something that I know of, like because they just don't teach about stuff like that. Like they teach about slavery, but honestly, a lot of it is focused on white people, honestly, in the way that we handled things. And I'm like, that's kind of like unfair. And
well, I think part of that stems from lack of material, because I mean, slavery was wrong, and but like, because slavery existed, you really only have records on white people, and that's not to the fault of people. I mean, and obviously, like, I think the problem is, one of the problems is with like teaching and stuff, that since you brought this up, is that like we look back on slavery and some of these guys and say, oh, well, because of slavery, everything they did was terrible, and we should condemn all white males from before the 1960s. Like, I don't think that's right. I mean, I think as people, we can look at the actions of historical figures and say, that is wrong, but these three things over here, these are very good and admirable and applicable to everyone of every race and gender. Like,
I see that with Clinton too. Like, Clinton, obviously, I don't know if you guys knew this, but he had an affair, and like, again, not cool, not a good thing to do. But like, people are like, oh, well, Clinton's presidency was a failure. And I'm like, well, there were certainly things that he did right. Obviously, lying to a country is like that. Honestly, though, is very not cool. So I understand that. But like, people, that happened with Nixon too. Like, Nixon knew about Watergate and he shouldn't have done that. But like, he was like, oh, the entire presidency was a failure, which I don't know anything about Nixon. But like, you know, you never know.
Yeah. Race is such a tricky one. It really is. Man, I just don't even know how to talk about it anymore. Yeah. Like, you can't have civil discussion about race or so many things. I feel like in America, I can't say because I'm scared of offending someone.
Well, I think that is because of the way that mainstream people are going about that. And I think that what will really make a difference is you going and seeking out relationships with people who are different from you. And I'm not saying just you, but every person. But like, if every person would go and seek out conversations and, you know, become friends with people, and then they see, oh, this is what they think. This is how that's different than what I think and how I see things happening. Like that's what's going to change the way that we all think, is if we all go and we seek understanding and we say, oh, this is how I feel. No matter what you're feeling, someone else can say, okay, this is how I feel. Let's try to reconcile these two things and see how we can help each other figure things out. Because I think that's the biggest issue right now, is we're just screaming our opinions without any understanding or knowledge of the other side. And we're saying, this is what's right. And I'm like, well, that's just an opinion. And again, an opinion formed based on your experiences, whereas someone else's experiences are completely different.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's also tricky. I mean, the solution of seeking out people that are different from you can sometimes come across as racist or bad. Like, I want to be friends with you because you're black, or I want to hire you because you're a woman. Like, while I understand that's it's just, I think it's a matter of how you go about it.
Yeah, it's how you go about it. I mean, if I walked up to someone and was like, hey, that's my thing, is I think you should establish relation. You shouldn't just be like, oh, I want to give you my political opinion because you're someone different. Like, I don't think, I think America needs to switch from, the whole world needs to switch from agenda politics and agenda relationships to just relationships based on like love and like helping people. But I don't think it's weird at all to go to someone who's different than you and just talk about those things if you're like having like civil conversation that's a friendship. I don't know. I do see the purpose and the necessity of hiring people who have been like oppressed by the system for a while. Like systematically, race has been oppressive in like the hiring process, and so was gender. I don't know. Some of the ways we go about it aren't necessarily super helpful and kind of don't work anyway, which I don't know. That kind of seems like a broken system as well. But like sometimes the best candidate, the best candidate should be the case, but sometimes you have to look at, okay, this candidate is
what do you mean
better.
When you say the case?
What did I just say? I forget already. I was rambling. I'm trying to say that, like, say a college is picking students, and two students are both pretty much similar. One's white and one's black. Like, if you could only choose one, sometimes I do think the best call is to pick the person who has systematically not been able to thrive, whereas a white student has probably, I know that a white student has for generations been the one that's been more successful compared to a black student who has been, has been oppressed for generation after generation. I do think that is helpful sometimes. I don't think you should necessarily be like, oh, this person has a terrible track record of education and like all that stuff, and then be like, oh, well, let's just do it anyway. But I don't know, a lot of people don't agree with that though, and I understand that I understand how that sounds too. So I don't know.
No, I know it's a tough issue, and I see that the problems with both sides. And I think the only problem is that begs a really, what's the word I'm looking for here? Like specific, really case by case personal basis of each judgment of this hypothetical situation. That it's tough once you get into the hypothetical and away from the real world, because then the things you say is now defined, and I don't know. I just prefer to look to the real world, and like you said, relationships out of love.
Yeah.
It's the only thing that's going to bring about any change. And I do think it's tough because, again, I don't think we're ever going to live in a perfect world. I don't think that's within the grasp of humanity. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't seek it. It doesn't mean we shouldn't pursue it, because I think the pursuit is what makes it good.
Yeah. And I don't know. Unfortunately, too, like for a lot of people, college is not the most pressing race issue either. Like male black teenagers have, a very high risk of being shot for multitudes of different reasons. But I mean, sometimes when the police get involved, it becomes, people have done I just learned about this case study they did where they did a bunch of stuff, but basically they had men and women go into different rooms and they would write down a list of what they need to do to protect themselves. And guys typically wrote down nothing, and girls wrote down this huge list, which just speaks to the culture of assault and stuff like that in our society. But then they also had stuff for white teenage men compared to black teenage men, and black teenage men have to do all these things to prepare themselves for all kinds of different situations, whereas white men have not a whole lot to worry about. I don't remember a time where I've been pulled over and been like, oh, I might get shot here.
Yep.
Whereas someone who was black who's been pulled over is obviously has to go way overboard of protocol and all that stuff. Whereas I don't have that worry when I get pulled over.
Yeah.
And that to me is super unfair. That just speaks to the way that culture has identified black men over time, and black women, of course. But a lot of times it's black men, especially in television and movies and stuff, is seeing them as these threats every time we go near them. But what were you going to say? Sorry.
Again, it's tough just to speak of a group as a whole, and I think I'm really, really hesitant to blame police officers.
Oh no, I think the police officers and that's part of the problem too, is people are like, well, that's the police, and I'm like, well, it's really just all of society institutionally racism. Institutional racism is saying every black man is a criminal and someone who's a threat. You see that in television, you see it in movies, see it in all types of media, of portraying black men and black women as people who are breaking the law every time they go anywhere, or that. And that is the system tearing down an entire race, compared to someone intentionally being like, I'm a racist towards a certain group of people. That's why I think a lot of police officers sometimes subconsciously think, oh my gosh, I have to shoot this guy because he's black, compared to but they're not actual racists. They're just I've been taught that they're a threat because of their skin color, and it's more of a subconscious thing, compared to consciously thinking, oh, he's a threat because he's black and I don't like black people.
And I think it's tough too, because police officers are paid little to nothing. They with that low of pay, I can't imagine there's extensive obviously it takes training to be a police officer, but and you don't think if a police officer went into inner city Chicago versus suburban Wichita, which place is he going to be more at risk?
Yeah.
So it's just, there's no one person to blame here. There's no one group or one thing. There's blame all around. But I think it's just important that everyone can recognize, there's an issue here, and it's going to take years of, relationship building, and you see great stuff too. I love finding videos online of people being like, wow, look, cops playing basketball with people, it's just, there's good things that happen too, but it's easy to focus on the on the bad stuff. So
Wichita's police force, they went and met with the Black Lives Matter movement here in Wichita, which is
Really?
pretty cool. Yeah, that's pretty cool to me. But
I think that is cool. Even, if you're just saying like, hey, I'm just going to come acknowledge you. I'm just going to come be where you're at peacefully and in a way that says, look, there's a problem. Let's just work together to find a solution.
Yeah.
And it's never going to be a perfect solution. It's never, I don't know. I feel like we keep saying the same thing over and over. That's never going to be perfect, but.
No. Well, it's true, though.
Mm.
What next?
You mentioned the media earlier, and I think that'd be interesting to talk about a little bit. That and also social media.
Yeah.
Because those are kind of newer things that I think are really shaping the culture and teenagers and young people in general. So shoot from the hip. What you got?
I've just been a big fan of like two tweets that Donald Trump has done. One being Covfefe. I don't know if you know what that is. Do you remember that?
No.
He basically one night, like very late in the night, just randomly tweeted like Covfefe, and it was like what? And it's like spelled like Covfefe, and like every like SNL, like Jimmy Fallon, all of them did just a bunch of material on it. Like just randomly he tweeted that, and we were just like, what? It made no
I
sense.
remember Star Wars memes about that.
Yeah, it was like just random. It was like, what are you even talking about? And then there was some other tweet. I forget what he was even tweeting about. But at the very end, I think he was talking about Kanye. At the end, he was just like, very cool with an exclamation point. And I just thought, every time something happens like that, I always just say, very cool. It's just so funny to me. But anyway, yeah, big fan of that. That's all I had to say on that matter. Just kidding. But I don't know. I do think, there's a lot that I would have liked to have gone differently with all that's being done nowadays. But taking statistics last year, the math class was very interesting in the way that our teacher was telling us that the way that they find information is like not super ethical of like actual like reporting statistics.
Really?
Like both sides do it where they just data mine and just try to find whatever is helpful for them. Like you could say, I mean, for literally any case, you could be like, oh, the economy is beneficial to these people versus these people. You just have to find the right people to actually do the survey with. And the way that you the way that you go about researching and finding your case studies, like it just like completely be subjective or like not ethical, which is both.
That's why I don't like to trust when people just throw facts at me because I'm like,
you have to really check your sources nowadays because you can literally just do whatever you want.
And I don't even know what a good source is.
Oh, like, I know. I couldn't tell you either. That's it. Like you literally can barely trust like facts anymore. So that's kind of a bummer. But I don't know. But I do think there's so much danger in saying, oh, yeah, the media, like, that's all fake news. Like, all of it is stuff you can't trust. And I'm like, that to me is really dangerous because then you're basically putting all your trust. Which is weird to me because President Trump was the one saying, like, I don't want you to trust the media. No, he's not saying I don't want you to trust it, but he's like, I don't trust the media. And a bunch of people follow that. And I'm like, that's how like dictatorships start almost, is you control the media. And I'm like, Republicans typically don't prefer dictatorships. So that's just been an interesting way for me to see that. But I think it's very dangerous to say, oh, don't trust the media at all, because like basically you're saying like the people who are freelancers who are not a part of the government are like the ones reporting this, and to say don't trust it is like saying, oh, put all your trust in the government. And I'm like, that seems risky. But hey, I don't wanna judge.
But I mean, I think it's tough. I don't think very many countries have seen like this problem arise before, where the media within the last 100 years or so has kind of realized that they have extreme power over people. And these really big media places have become super biased, and they realize they can affect
Yeah.
elections affect things by what they choose to report on. Both sides. Both sides. And then it creates this selective reporting
Yeah.
and manipulation
Yeah.
of the American people that's not been seen before, I don't think, in very many countries, because it's either like free media where people are actually reporting, like trying to discover bad things and tell people about it, or completely controlled by the government, which is always bad.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it's
So
tough.
I think it speaks to that issue that I can't name a news service that isn't biased one way or another.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what news is. News is not supposed to be opinions. It's supposed to be, here's what's happening. And if you want to have panels that discuss it, if you want to have people come in and talk about it,
Yeah.
that to me is like what I want. But I don't want you to be like not reporting certain things, reporting things that are helpful for you. I don't want you to be like spinning things all the time, and especially with the way that we view news still. Like, we still view news as almost factual.
Yeah.
When the news people that are reporting it know that they're taking their own things out of it and they're spinning it their way. And so, to me, you have to choose. I mean, we have to choose of whether we're gonna say, "Oh, news isn't really what it used to be," or let's go back to the way it used to be. I prefer the way that it used to be. Let's go back and actually report things. But
I understand that every person alive has presuppositions, has a worldview, has biases, but I can respect when someone tells me what it is. When someone says, look, I lean this way, okay? I'm going to try and give you the best fair thing I can. I lean this way, so look out for that when I tell you things, okay? Like, that, I think, is the only way to get around worldviews and biases and presuppositions, is to say those kind of things. Like, when you're having a discussion about race with someone, and you say, look, I grew up in a predominantly white society, and that's my worldview. I'm going to try and be as unracist, unbiased as I can, but I only understand certain things because I was raised that way and raised in that. And you shouldn't hold that against me, and I shouldn't hold anything against you, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And that's where you start to have those conversations, and you could say, oh, I grew up this way, but that might not necessarily be the way that, it has to be or it should be.
Right.
And so that's where that understanding comes. I think admitting the fact that you have presuppositions and beliefs that you bring into a conversation is the only way to get around those. That's true.
Yep. Anyway, and that kind of relates to social media, which I think is really, if I can be frank, a virus that has attached itself to the youth of the world, honestly.
I mean, it used to be a meme, but man, do I wish people still posted pictures of their food. I'd prefer that, dude.
Oh, I think
it's more
killing
Twitter.
People.
It's more Twitter than anything else, honestly.
I don't know. I think Instagram and Snapchat each have
really,
their own like.
Okay, I don't do a lot. I feel like Twitter, they just put it in your face so much that it's like, all right, dude, I don't care.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I've seen the growth of just not real things becoming like things will get millions of retweets, and someone will be like, that's literally fake. Like, there's someone. Whoopi Goldberg was at some. Do you know who Whoopi Goldberg is?
Yeah.
Yeah, she was at some random, like, I think it was like a march or something, like a women's march or something.
Yeah.
And she like had a shirt on that was like for women's rights or something, and someone photoshopped a picture of Donald Trump getting shot in the head as like on the shirt of like it looked like very real, like she was wearing a shirt that had like Donald Trump getting shot in the head. And someone was like, "Oh, look at what she's wearing! It's so awful!" And it got millions of retweets. And she was like, "Yeah, I don't have that shirt. That's not even a real shirt. Look at the picture that was taken of me." Like, and that's what I think is scary: is misinformation and like falsified stuff be transferred so fast, and you just without thinking about it, go, "Oh my gosh, what is she doing?" And you think all of a sudden, "Oh man, she's doing something terrible," which I think. That just is very very dangerous, and social media lets
Well,
that happen a lot. So
yeah, and I think that's the problem with Twitter. But I think the problem with Instagram is creating like people find their identity in that.
oh
And
yeah,
that doesn't happen in Twitter, but I think in Instagram, like that is really detrimental to someone's mental health.
Yeah,
It's just it's a terrible way to live life, honestly.
yeah. Basically, I've heard it said it's living the like you're showing like the highlights of your life.
Yeah.
And so basically people are just comparing highlights, and that's a pretty hackneyed phrase. I feel like I just heard it a lot. I don't know if people have heard that a lot, but like it is honestly like the most real thing I've ever heard of. Like basically you're just posting all these good things, but no one ever, well, I shouldn't say no one. A lot of people don't post when things are going wrong and like the lows of their life and the stuff that's tough. And so I had the tendency a lot to be like, oh man, that looks so fun. Why am I not doing anything like that? Like, why am I not feeling that way? And I'm like, wait a second, that's not at all like the majority of their life. Like, you've got like, I think that's been promoted a lot. And you see that with teens suffering anxiety and depression going up. Like, I think a lot of that's due to social media.
Definitely.
Along with a ton of other things, but social media certainly has helped that.
Well, and I don't think it's wrong posting the good things in your life and not posting the bad things. I just think it's wrong.
Mindset.
Yeah, it's wrong when the things you post are the highs of your life. Like if that's all you're posting and that's all you're expecting on other people, then that's the wrong thing. Like the best things in my life are not all over my Instagram because they're special to me and I don't know. I just don't feel like that's an appropriate place to put the best things in life. I don't know.
Yeah. I usually don't have a big problem people posting like really big highs. My thing is when they post just 3 or 4 times a day and they put it in your face, and I'm like, I didn't care anyway, so I'm not going to care when you do it 4 or 5 times a day. So please stop.
It's basic marketing, man. It's just volume.
Yeah, volume over anything else.
Quantity over quality.
I think I just am annoyed with people all the time in general. So that's the biggest problem.
I think the other thing that social media does, along with movies and just the general culture, is like kind of this idea of what relationship love looks like and what that is.
Goals.
And pizza is goals. To steal a joke from Cody Ko, bacon is mood, pizza is fam, and chicken nuggets are lit.
Chicken nuggets are bae, fam.
No, I just think that is probably the saddest misconception of our culture is what everyone's belief of love is. That it's just this shallow attraction for a person.
Yeah.
That's all it is just feeling attracted to someone. And no one ever says, hey, that's going to go away with any person that you ever are with, ever.
Definitely.
And nobody's ready for it. Nobody's ready for when that goes away. And when it goes away, they're like, oh, well, I'll just move on to the next person because then this next person will be better. And that feeling won't go away. And it's like so many other things that people try and use to fill their life. But I don't know. I just think love has a lot more choice involved. Like, you got to choose to love someone even when you don't feel like it. And that's really easy for me to say, who's never really had to do that before. I don't know.
I don't know. You see the success rate of arranged marriages, which, don't get me wrong, have a lot of downsides for a lot of people, but like happy arranged marriages tend to be much more successful than our marriage rate in America. However, I do think there's obviously so much good in being able to choose who you're married to. I don't think that's especially for women in countries where that's just like you're shipped off to find some random guy. Like that's not okay. But
really sad.
But more older fashioned of arranged marriages are usually pretty good. But I don't know. I think it is more of a choice of choosing to like love someone. And and it's so much of movies and TV shows are like, oh, I have a feeling now that I love this person, and like once the feeling fades,
And that's good. That's
because things are
important.
different. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's like if the feeling fades of like a high, and then you're like, well, I guess we're not meant to be, and I'm like, that's not really how that works. And
No.
I think it's less of a all of a sudden you get this feeling of, oh, I love this person. It's more of a over time realizing, oh, you know what? I'd give you a high five, and if you like someone, give them a high five. That's my love advice.
Well, and I think the really sad thing to me is I'll kind of critique the church here a little bit. Is that the divorce rate within the church and outside of the church is exactly the same.
Yeah, it's not much better at all.
And I just find that really, really sad.
Yeah, that is. Especially for people who like avidly preach against divorce,
Yeah.
like sometimes too far. But like if you're gonna hold people to the higher standard, then be the standard. And so,
Yep.
I don't know. That's frustrating.
But such is human nature. We're all pretty big hypocrites. So
true. Except for me, though.
no, you're perfect, and that's what the podcast is about. That everyone will have a standard to follow. So
yeah, definitely.
Oh man,
Today we're kind of going.
what's that?
We're at like 50 some minutes.
Yeah, I got one more thing we can talk about if we want to push to an hour.
Do it.
I just would love to hear what you think. Like kind of define happiness and maybe the differences between your definition and what culture says happiness is.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's easier to define it as happiness versus like joy, and happiness is so much more of like a fleeting thing, whereas joy is like more of a constant like contentment in what you're doing, and that contentment brings you a joy in a way. I don't think being content is necessarily the right word. I don't know I don't know of a better. I can't think of a
maybe
better
like
word.
an attitude.
Yeah, I think it's more of, I don't know, more of a choice, but not that I'm saying that if you're like depressed, it's like, oh, well then choose to be happy, because that's not at all the case. That ever is what's going to work there. But I think
that could be part of the solution. But sorry, continue.
I think joy is more of a choice of, you know what, maybe this isn't exactly what I want, but I can find happiness through this. So I think in most situations you can find a bright spot.
Yeah.
But
I like that, man.
Yeah.
I really agree with that a lot. I think, happiness is something that is projected as the top tier. Like this, if you're not happy, then do what it takes to make you happy. If this person isn't making you happy, find someone else that's going to make you happy. Like, I don't think happiness is that important. I think it's good to be happy. It's good to be happy once in a while. And I think if you're never happy, then there's problems here. But like, you go through different emotions. Like happiness, you're going to feel happy sometimes. You're going to feel sad sometimes. You should cherish the moments of happiness, and then and the moments of sadness, hope for the happiness, hope for the next thing. But I don't know. I just think happiness is over idolized in our culture, and for most people, nothing makes you truly happy.
Yeah, I think that's kind of speaks to the pursuit of emptiness, like because people find happiness in lots of different things, and then realize, oh, this is not going to last.
Yeah.
And then they just keep thinking different things that are more extreme or just like hurtful.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think there's importance too to not relishing the times of sadness, but like understanding and acknowledging sadness and times of hurt, and trying to take those as learning and take those as healing, because you can't really heal unless you've been, in that
Yeah.
hurt. So
Yeah, that's really true.
I don't know.
I mean, no pain, no gain, really.
I think what I'm trying to say is rise and grind.
I think, in the ancient words of Confucius, thou shalt feel gain once thou shalt haveth pain.
Yeah, he was so smart.
He was a solid dude.
Yeah, I'd give him a high five.
I would be probably a little more hesitant. I don't just throw out high fives willy-nilly.
You don't high five just anybody.
That's exactly right.
You know what they say? High five means love.
That, and fist bump means likeness.
I like you.
Write that down, everybody.
You're welcome for this podcast.
Oh, man. This was a fun one. I actually really enjoyed this.
It was. And you know what? I don't hate you, even though we have different views. That's so weird.
What?
I thought I had to...
I thought I wrote down here, if we ever disagree, I have to hate him. And I don't feel that.
I wrote down all these different names I could call you, and I didn't call you any of them. They're all offensive and usually slurs, but I didn't use any of them. Because apparently you have to use that if you disagree.
Right. I mean, I was gonna scream at you that you're a bigot, even though I don't really know precisely what that means.
That's on my list. Yep.
I just know that white people are bigots, and you're white, so.
Well, a lot of us are, but yeah, we'll go on.
Oh man, satire is fun.
Yep. It was good. It's fun.
Shout out to my boy Mark Twain. Peace.
Samuel.
Sorry, I just had to get a little book reference in there.
That's so great that you read, dude. If we were to ever argue about politics and it got dirty, I would just call you out for reading, dude.
What would you say? Give me your best reading insult.
Oh, off the top of my head, what do you think? You're so pretty? It's not good. What do you think? You're so smart because you read books? I'll tell you what's smart. Street smarts, and then I'd throw a chip at you.
Well, surprise, I open up my hollowed out book, Switchblade Knife.
Smart.
Thank you. No, okay, you want to hear a funny story, actually? So I was at this person's house, and they had a book on their shelf, and it was A Farewell to Arms by Ernest Hemingway, which is one of my favorite books. I was like, oh, it's so cool, I'm going to check it out. I didn't think I'd see this book in the UK because it's American literature. I don't know. It's like, oh, awesome. Grab it, try to open it. It's like a hollow book. I was like, would have been a perfect hiding place for 99% of the world, but for me, it's I would have found whatever you're hiding immediately.
Yeah. Dang.
I just thought that was funny.
I didn't think those were actually real. I thought those were just in TV shows, like Pink Panther.
What a quality film, man. Quality film.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, we're getting up to an hour. This has been really fun. If you've listened this far, we could do another one of these. I would love to do one with people sending us questions that we could answer. We'd probably get maybe 2 or 3 questions based off of our audience size. But
yeah, that's pretty good.
I think that would be fun. If we got enough questions, I'd be open to doing that. I don't know about you, but
yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Thanks, guys. Guess we'll see you next week.
Yeah.
All right.
Peace.
See ya. How do you turn this thing off?
With the book.